everyone. Appreciate your coming out here on a Saturday afternoon. Welcome to all our Zoom people who are joining via Zoom. We will. Dave, do you have a count over there on Zoom people?
31.
31 on Zoom plus 412 in here. So that makes, all right, that's great. Okay, here we are. We're the ROD team. We'll introduce ourselves in just a moment. This workshop is about becoming a cooperative and aspects around what it means to be a member. But before we get started, I want to express some thanks, huge thanks, like double espresso thanks to our technical partners, Kim Coons and Randy Keller from CCCD, that's California Center for Cooperative Development, who are joining us today on Zoom. If we can get them linked in, we think they're there yet.
Yes,
okay,
they
good, they're there. All right, so you'll hear from them a little bit later. They have the meat of the presentation. Also, Jody Byatt from Rock USA. Jody and Randy have been meeting with us weekly, literally weekly for a year to help us get to this point. So we cannot do this work without them. They're absolutely essential. So hand for them, those folks as well. Kim, Randy, and Jody. Also our communications team, Irma Wheatley, Mary Curry, Carol Joy Harris, Anila Manning, the terrific Twirling Tubers this week under the direction of Lisa Jackler and Ann Lakota.
Yay.
Our tech team, David Gray, John Feld, Ron Citron, and John Hansen. And on refreshments, Susan Hoff and Brad Witherspoon.
Yay.
And yes, there will be refreshments at the end. Now, just to carry on with this idea of volunteering, let's just take a moment and think about who's volunteering. PAC Board, HOL, Marval, Invest, Food Distribution, Echo, MarinValley.net, and many, many more people. We live in a beautiful community here. There's no question about it. But where would we be without all the volunteers that we have in the community? Yeah. So clearly, it takes a village, and it will take a co-op. So let's go get it. All right. Next one. All right, here's our workshop agenda, and this workshop is being recorded. So you'll be able to access it online. You can see the main points here. If you look down at Rock USA and CCCD roles, number 3 through number 6, that's going to be handled mostly by Randy and Kim, and we'll be participating as well. There will also be very short question and answer periods between items 4 and 5, 5 and 6, at 6 and 7, and 7 and 8. And I believe 3 and 4, I'm not sure, but we'll see.
Plenty of room for questions.
Yeah, good. Okay, now, some ground rules here. Next slide. Ground rules. Everybody has one of these things. They're wonderful devices until they're not. And right now they're not. So what we're going to do all together is turn them off. It won't hurt nearly so badly if we do it all at the same time. Okay. And here's why. There is a situation here where the apparently, according to the tech team, these things smurgle up the electromagnetic wah-wahs or something. That's the technical term for it interferes. So we want everything off in here so we don't have that kind of problem. All right. No sidebar conversations. That's when you turn over to your neighbor and say something. Why? Because you and your neighbor are now out of the workshop along with all the people around you. If you have to say something to your neighbor, write a little note, if you would, please. We will have no breaks in this 2-hour presentation. No breaks. If you need to use the bathroom, you know where they are. Please just leave quietly. We will have these Q&A periods, as I've stated. Little shorter Q&A periods between the main sections. I'm going to ask you to please formulate your most important question and keep to the topic. okay? If we have time, we will come back through and pick up all the questions, but I'm guessing with this many people in the room, that many people on Zoom, you're going to have to tolerate some ambiguity and uncertainty. It's just how it is. We'll try to get to everything. Doubt we'll have time to get that covered. So my job is to keep us on time and on topic. And I will do so with all the loving kindness in my heart at first. Okay? All right. Any questions before we get started? And they better be quick. Okay, John. Sign in before you leave, either now or before you leave, please. We need to have a count of everyone in this room so we can demonstrate that we're communicating to the
Community.
to the wider audience here. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you, Alan. I'm John Hanson. I'm the president of the PAC board and the CEO of the corporation, of the PAC Corporation. And let's see, I will be here today with the team, with the ROD team. And one of our team members will not be here today, and that's Mary Curry. So anyway, a round of applause for Mary. She's been a great help to us and a great assistant in the process. Yeah, thank you, Mary. And let's see, I
John,
guess we
let's-
go on
yeah.
to David.
Just introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who are you? Who is
Good
the masked
afternoon.
man?
I'm David Tetta.
And I'm Serena Fisher.
Alan Gump. Thank you.
Thanks. All right.
All right. John,
Okay, is this my slide?
this is your slide.
Okay, great. Okay, the goal for becoming Marin Valley Cooperative. As it says there, protect us from becoming an asset for a for-profit entity. Now that includes the city. Once our loan that we're paying off now and have been for a couple of decades, once that's paid off, then all of what we are paying, if we stay with the city, would go as profit to the city. And in other words, our rent is not going to go down at all when we paid off the loan. And it most likely will go up once we're identified as a profit center for the city. So the other thing is another type of for-profit entity would be like Dean Mosier. And we've already been down that path. Fortunately, all of you showed up at the clubhouse, or excuse me, at the at City Hall and put a halt to that. So, but there are many other vultures circling and looking at what goes on here. So I want to assure you that once we are a nonprofit, LEHC, housing cooperative, all of these things protect us from that. We cannot be sold to a for-profit entity. So that's a big deal. So there's affordability, which we can maintain, control ourselves, security, and of course, independence in perpetuity.
Okay, well, we'd just like to go over what we're hoping you will get out of this workshop. And it includes having a better understanding of what membership in the Marin Valley Cooperative means, both for you personally and for us as a community at large. We want to cover the benefits and responsibilities of being a member, and those will include things like discussing fees. What will be the fee associated with membership? What are the other requirements that we'll be asking people who are going to be members to do, and explaining what will be the advantages of doing that. Why do you want to be a member? We think there's very good reasons for that, and we hope we're able to convey those to you. We're going to talk a little bit about the differences between being a member and being a non-member. And so obviously we're working on a program that will appeal to all residents to become members. We realize that some still won't want to do that. And we're trying to help you understand what are the differences for individuals again, and for the community as a whole, for people that choose to be members and for people that may choose not to be members. Then lastly, we want to give you a good sense of what we're going to be doing over the next few months, because things are going to gear up. I think we will be becoming more active. There will be more workshops. There will be more votes over the next few months. And there will also be a membership drive. So one of the main things is we'll be giving you a more extensive preview of this a month from now in a September workshop. Around that time, we'll also be initiating a membership drive. Soon after that, we'll also be engaged in a series of decisions and votes that will begin to establish the legal framework for the co-op itself. We're at the point where we expect the articles of incorporation to be filed any day. And there are a number of other steps that help solidify the initial legal framework of the co-op. And we'll go over what those are at the end of the workshop real briefly.
Thank you, David. We'd like to bring in Kim Coons and Randy Keller. David Gray, can you loop those folks in on via your Zoom? And Kim, maybe you could just test it by starting to speak, and we'll hopefully hear you in this hall.
Yep. Kim is
Okay, I
on.
think Randy's going to do this, the first few slides. Can you hear me?
Okay. Hey, Randy.
That was Kim. I'm Randy. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. I'm Randy from the California Center for Cooperative Development, CCCD, and I'm just going to go over a little bit about what Rock USA is. And Rock USA is a partner of ours who helps not only with funding, but with guidance and an outline for the program of purchasing mobile home park communities. Rock USA has done hundreds of communities, over 300 across the USA. So we partner with Rock and go through the process and help your board with the process of purchasing. So again, they are our funding partner. They work hand in hand with lenders in California, putting together financing to purchase the community. And they also work with some grant writers, in this case, a federal grant called Price, and that's part of the package that we're working on for you guys, and Rock is working on also. And so they give us, regulatory advice and guidelines to organize your board and committees for the purchasing and operating process going forward. They also advocate, which comes back to the grant writing, and like we mentioned, the Price grants, that's something they're actively working on for your community. And they also assist with the acquisition tasks with the city. In other words, we're going to work with your committees and the negotiation with the city as we proceed through this process. Kim, do you want to do the CCD part? Or do you want me to continue?
Oh, you're doing great. Go ahead.
Okay, and CCCD, the Center for Cooperative Development, we are the technical assistance provider. So we have a contract with Rock USA to provide technical assistance for you guys, not only during the purchase process, but for the next 10 years. In other words, to service the loan and make sure that the park is operating properly and that bills get paid and the meetings occur and elections occur with the board and that type of stuff. So we're there with you through the process over the next 10 years, giving, financial advice, working as advocates for you guys, educating and monitoring again our board meetings. So we will be with your board for the next 10 years, helping out where we can. Your board still has, of course, decision-making processes and that type of thing. We won't interfere with that so much. So you still have the governing rights yourself, but we're there to help you guys out. And we're part of a larger network of CTAPs, in other words, organizations that Rock USA has throughout the country. So that's what we do. And I think this slide is Kim's.
I should add, Randy, that that Rock USA, as Randy mentioned, there's over, 317 was the last count that I had.
I think we're at
nationwide.
327.
Yeah, something like a 327. Great.
Yeah.
And none of them have failed. And that is because of the Rock and their CTAP structure And so that's what Randy is going to be helping us to ensure that we don't make mistakes along the way because we've never done this before.
Yes, this is a complicated process, and that's what we're here to help guide you through. There's a lot to be done here as you incorporate and form a nonprofit and then eventually become a limited equity housing co-op. A lot of steps here. And it's a very big piece of property worth millions and millions of dollars. So it's a big deal. And we're here to help with that.
So a housing cooperative is a legal entity that owns real estate, and it's owned and controlled by the residents that live there. And that ownership is facilitated through purchasing a share. And that's what you're going to be talking about, I think, later on, is how much that share price will be for your community. You will, as David said, you're in the process of incorporating as a public benefit nonprofit, and you've got this wonderful name, Moraine Valley Cooperative, and then you will go through the process after you purchase the park of becoming a limited equity housing cooperative. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about that. The limited equity housing cooperative has its own statutes, and one of them is that it places a cap on the resale value of that share that you have. But I think it's really important to say, in a manufactured home community like yours, the share only governs the cooperative. It does not influence at all what you sell your home for individually. You can just do that on whatever you will sell that at whatever the market will bear. What part of the ROC process is that the limited California law says that limit can be 10% per year of equity, but ROC, those share prices are no equity, so they will remain the same. When you sell your home, you will sell it for whatever you want, but the share price would be sold for whatever you'd get back whatever you paid, and the next person would pay in the same amount. So if you want to just go on, next slide. I don't think I can move the slides.
I moved it for you.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I forgot there's this new one. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later, but this enables you to participate through the cooperative. And the park ownership through the LEHC is that it remains that way in perpetuity. There's restrictions on the resale. The resale is that you have to, if you sell, it has to be through it has to be to another nonprofit or to another cooperative. There are also voting requirements that would be, the board couldn't just decide to sell. And everyone is invited to become a member. The hope is that you'll become a member immediately, because that helps you reach the thresholds that are required by your funder, ROC Capital USA. And then everyone will cooperatively own the park, and you'll own your home individually. So there's lots of governing protections that are in place, and one of them is just being a corporation. A corporation requires that you have a board that has legal responsibilities in what they do. It also requires that you have to pay your taxes. You have to make sure that you file a statement of information every couple of years. So there are protections there just being in a corporation. And most importantly, it insulates your individual liability. So a corporation does for the co-op like just the same as it does for others, which is that it insulates that individual liability as long as you follow the law. If people don't follow the law, that breaks the corporate seal. And then the limited equity housing statute also has, like I said, that's where the resale limitation is. There's some other things with the limited equity housing co-op. That entity type is what makes you required to follow Davis-Sterling Act. The Davis-Sterling Act is simultaneously great and frustrating sometimes because it has a lot of regulations to it. And they are all intended to be consumer protection. So it tells you how you conduct your elections. It's going to say how much notice you give for meetings. It says information, that how information needs to be available to people. There are just a lot of elements of Davis Sterling, and this is one of the things that we can help you with, and the attorney that you hire will also help you with that. And then Randy's going to talk about that. And also, Davis Sterling requires that you have a reserve study every 3 years. And that reserve study basically says, okay, these are things that need to be done. Do you have enough money to cover these?
Okay, and so I'm going to take the last sentence here, which is the mobile home residency law. And so there's two parts to the mobile home residency law, 799, which governs co-ops, and 798, which governs renters. You will still probably have some renters in the park who may not join the co-op. Those particular renters who still own their homes will follow the mobile home residency law as it stands now. So the rules and regulations you have for the park currently generally follow those rules. So that's what will apply to them. The new co-op will form a what do we want to say, of rules board to come up with some new rules for the membership. So there will be two different types of rules, one's for the members and one's for the renters who still remain as residents of a mobile home park. So just letting you know that's how that split will work.
So there are a lot, okay. So some of the other ways that this is kind of more of CCCD's role is that we will, and I'll talk about these more in the context of an example, but we basically monitor and mentor the co-op board. I'll explain a little bit more about this financial reporting to Rock Capital USA. And then, like I said, the LEHC law prohibits the sale of the park except to another nonprofit corporation. And then that reserve study I also mentioned. So I just wanted to go back when I spoke to you several months ago now. I mentioned this park because it has a lot of, it's very similar to your park. It's another senior housing park in a really nice area. This one tends to be more rural. The Woods Cooperative Corporate Association. It's also smaller than yours. There's 109 units, and their purchase they went through escrow in late November of 2021, and it sold for $13,500,000. Now that price was very, very high for these residents. It meant a significant increase in their rent, and we worked with Rock Capital and also the seller. The seller in this instance was a nonprofit, but the nonprofit needed to have a market rate sale. So they did come down a little bit on the price, but not a lot. We were able to negotiate $1 million that they would allocate toward either some kind of resident fund. And one of the things that we did was we used half of that amount to create a tiering fund so that people wouldn't have a large rent increase all at once. It would be scattered over several years. And one of the things I think is just really amazing is that in order to kind of make that tiering fund as robust as possible, people had the option of not doing the tiering, taking the entire rent increase immediately. And there were a number of residents who did that. And to me, I think that's just amazing. You know, they're just paying more for their lot rent in order to allow more money for this tiering. And it just shows the commitment. They were in the same kind of situation that you're in. You know, they were going to be sold to an investor and they would lose all the control of their community. They also took the other half of that and created what they call a founders fund, which is for people who are low income. The original intent was to set up with a foundation, but the foundation that didn't work out. And so they have an agreement with CCCD. We have a fiscal sponsorship arrangement where we hold the money and we disperse it according to what the committee, they have a committee that's made up of community members not living at the woods. And there are like only 2 community members that know who gets, who has a scholarship from this fund, who is being, whose rent is being subsidized. So that's the Founders Run. And we have no say in who, we just monitor the money. And when they tell us to pay the management company X amount, that's what we do. And then post-purchase, we had a number of, we applied for some grants for them. The residents apply for ROC grants. These are smaller grants, like a couple $1,000. I think they just got one this year because they have had a problem with bears, and they were able to buy some trash cans that were bear proof. So it's a pretty good. And then we also applied for a rehab loan from Moore, which is a program hopefully that will continue. They opened that up and it has not been re-released. I mean, we're still working on getting the money for that. They are governed by a 5-member board and they have many, many committees. And so there's lots of opportunities for participation really by the residents who want to. And some of these are garden committee, social committee, they have a maintenance committee, they have just a lot of committees. And in all those instances, those committees have a limited amount of things that they can just make decisions on their own. And then if they have a major thing, they need to present their proposal to the board, and then the board would pass it. And I have some more in the next slide. So I just thought I'd talk in the context of the woods, what we do for them, so you can get a better idea. So we shepherded them along with ROC USA through the purchase process, which included helping them to get the due diligence award, that loan that is a forgivable loan through ROC Capital USA. And then we just like through closing and so forth. And we work really closely with the board and with ROC USA and also with your attorney. So you always have your own attorney, and they have an attorney. So we also provide kind of ongoing board and community trainings. There's a requirement for at least once a year. In the Woods case, we've done, I think we've averaged 2 a year. And just some examples are, kind of general board and management roles and responsibilities, decision-making processes, reading and understanding financial statements. Those are just an example. And then there have been some things that have come up. And so when they ask us to do a training, we have. A lot of the training takes place really in mentoring. And we attend all of the board meetings and the annual member meetings. So we're there to answer questions. We don't run the meeting. We're just there to provide some support. We assure loan compliance. So at the same time we're helping you, we're also fulfilling requirements from your lender. We report all of your financials. We put into a Salesforce program so that ROC Capital can check and see how things are going. We make sure that they get your budget every year will also have to be would have to be approved by your lender. So we make sure that it's ready and it has the requirements that the lender requires. So those kinds of things. So, and we assist you with the annual budget and financial monitoring. If something comes up, we help you with that. And then there's like all different kinds of support that's needed. For instance, when the community really needed somebody or some way to make this Founders Fund happen, we worked on that. We applied for the Moore grant. And then the board, they're actually have different members now, but the board was, they were getting frustrated because there were lots of emails going back and forth. And it was getting to quite time consuming for everyone. So I just suggested, how about if we just have a weekly huddle and see how long we need to do that, but no emails unless it's an urgent matter, just the huddle. And I think that has been really good. Some weeks they don't meet, and maybe eventually they won't even have the huddle. So those are just some examples of what what we've done. And it's, they're just a wonderful group of people. And I think that one of them has been communicating with the board as well.
Okay, we are going to have questions now. And what I'd like to ask you to do is line up behind this microphone. And I'd like to ask you to remind you to please ask only one question. And also that you keep on topic. We just covered those items. If you stray off the topic, I will bust you.
Quick, quick time,
Oh,
quick
I'm-
time check, Alan. Quick time check. We're at 1:30 right now.
We're at 1:30 now. We have a lot to go.
Okay.
So please be brief in your questions and on point. Thank you.
I'm Kevin Mulvaney. I'm at 115 Panoramic Drive. It seems that there's definitely two issues here. Are we going to buy this park and are we going to become a co-op? I'm just wondering, shouldn't we find out how, or can we find out how much this park is going to cost?
Okay, Kevin, I'm going to stop you. We have a process to do that, but in order to get ready to do that, we have to go through all of this co-op development work. So we are assuming we're going to be successful. If we're not, we're not. But we are not going to wait until we find out a purchase price to do all of this work. Otherwise, we'll lose a year. So you have another question?
What if we don't need a co-op? Can we just jump back out and say, you know what, it turns out we're not buying the
There will
park.
be
We
votes.
have other options. We're out.
There will
Can we
be
do that?
votes if you don't like what you're seeing in terms of all the terms of the co-op, in terms of the loan, in terms of the membership price, et cetera, you vote no on that vote.
Okay.
Can I add something?
Yes,
So
please, Jen.
one of the things that we do, and Randy will do for you in conjunction with Jody from Rock, we will, when the price comes out, we're going to have a pro forma for you. We're going to show you everything, what the projected rents will be, what the price is. So you're going to get inundated with a lot of money and figures. So we try to make sure that you go into this with as much information as you possibly can.
That sounds great. The pro forma seems like the
Right.
way to go.
And that,
Yeah, I would just want to add one thing. John gave a handout, or we've given a handout along with an overview of this that talks about the two-step process. And I think Kevin has hit on the fact that we're sort of doing two things in sync. We're trying to form a co-op that'll be able to accept ownership of the park as we're negotiating the sale of the park at the same time. It makes it a little challenging in terms of figuring out what the bottom line is, but that really is the most effective way of doing the whole process.
Hi, I'm Barbara Chexera. You may have partially answered my question. My question is, there are a lot of people here with very limited incomes, low-cost housing, hopefully. Would we get some figures regarding that? Who is eligible for stipend? Who's eligible for some additional monies to help them purchase their membership?
I can answer that. Yes, we have a subcommittee within the finance committee that's addressing that right now. And I can talk a little bit more about that later when we get to that part of the presentation. But yes, indeed, we've got your back.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Greg Smith. I'm brand new here in Three Fallen Leaf. We've been here, we've just moved in 3 weeks ago.
Welcome.
And I am, oh, thank you. And we are so thrilled to be here. I am, first off, I just want to say how wildly appreciative we are of the work that you all have been doing about this. This past week, I was reading an article about the one of the mobile home parks in Petaluma, where you probably are familiar with this, but where the private owner was trying to increase rents by $1,000 a month. And the
Craig,
city,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's an important point and you're absolutely right. It's a critical point and that's one of the risks that we're aware of. I'm
Yeah.
going to ask you to come back to
Okay.
just limit your question to this topic. that
sure, sure.
We're on
But
right now. Thank
I
you.
just wanted to point out how grateful we are that
Thank you.
discovering
Thank
this
you.
is being done. A question I had was about what seems to be incredibly valuable is the CCCD and ROC. And I'm assuming that there are fees that we have to pay for that service. And I guess that'll be part of the presentations as we start looking at co-op structure?
I can answer that. Right now, yeah, there's a standard fee that they charge, but first of all, both of them are 501c3 public benefit corporations. Okay, so they're nonprofits. So the fee they charge is what they need to operate and to provide the services that they do to us. What that fee will be exactly, I don't know. It might vary a bit, and it is negotiable. And we've talked with Rock USA a bit about that already, and so we do know that that can be negotiated.
Okay.
But they do need to cover their costs, and they're a very valuable asset for us, so we intend to do that.
That's very helpful.
Thank
Just
Thank
one
you very
last
much.
thing. Thank you very much, Greg. One last thing is, when we get a pre-development loan to do all the due diligence work that we have to do prior to the purchase, should we fail at purchasing the park, that loan is forgivable. So that's great news for us. That's from Rock USA. All right, thank you and welcome.
Hi, kids. Thank you for everything you've done so far and continue to do. It's Ellen Jane Schultz here. And basic question is, will we retain the rents that we're paying now and then on top of that pay something else for the co-op, like $100 that additional a month? Will our basic rent stay the same?
No, we don't know what the rents will stay until we get through all the pro forma analysis and all of that. But there will be a membership price, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. And then there will be your ongoing carrying charges. But let us get to that a little bit
Right.
later in the
Thank you.
presentation.
Just to clarify that, it's a one-time membership fee to join the co-op.
Yeah, we'll get there.
That's one time. Yeah.
Right, but no more going forward added on to our current.
You'll hear
Right.
about
You'll
it.
hear more.
You'll hear
of
more.
this.
Can I just add one thing? And that is that you own this park. So you're setting your fees based on how much money you need. You operate at cost. No one is making any money off of you.
Hi, Maggie Siegfried, View Ridge. Question that popped into my mind. If people are still unsure when it's time to join, could there be an option, because since we don't know how much it's going to cost and stuff like that, to join later?
Yes, and we'll talk about that when we get to membership. Thank
Okay.
you.
Hi, Ann Nadler.
Can't hear you.
Ann Nadler.
Thank you.
My question has to do with the sale of property once the park becomes a cooperative and the ability for purchasers to access mortgages. My question has to do with the nature of a legal cooperative. Can a bank create a mortgage in which the individual properties can be held as collateral foreclosed against if an individual owner wishes to sell and there's a purchaser who needs to generate a mortgage?
I'll let Randy and Kim address that.
Well, I'll just say that you remember that you own your home separately. So if you sell your home and someone gets a mortgage or you want to refinance, it's going to be on your particular property. And the advantage, and I'll just say that one of the advantages of being a resident-owned community is that what we find is your property, your home values increase because of the security that you get. And so usually people can sell their homes for a little bit more when they are a resident-owned community. When you remember that you have a corporation, so you're cooperatively owning the land underneath all of the units and all the buildings and everything like that, but you have a corporation that protects you from individual liability. And you will have a mortgage. That mortgage payment will be paid by the corporation, and the agreement is between the cooperative corporation and the lender.
That's for the lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
and-
But it's not
you
for
had a
your-
slightly separate question, if I
Yeah,
understood you correctly.
and where your home is concerned, remember it's personal property. You purchased your home in the community now is a piece of personal property on a space you lease from the current owner, the city. that space fee will still be there. It'll go to the cooperative in that point, but your home will still remain personal property. When you go to sell, the new buyer coming in will get a personal property loan to buy your home, just like it is now. So that really won't change.
I do have a comment on that
Okay, but let's be
response.
quick. We're running short on time here.
My lender has informed me that nationwide, there are no loan lists for all cooperatively held mobile home parks.
Well, we'll deal with that offline, okay? Thank you.
I'll say nationwide is also a mutual. It's a cooperative.
Jan Thomas, Fallen Leaf, and this question's for Dave.
Mm.
Early on, you said that filing for articles of incorporation for Marin Valley Cooperative, that's our name, was imminent. And in that process, don't we have to submit bylaws? We do not?
No.
Okay, because
No, their bylaws are part, and we'll go into this, they're part of the overall framework we'll be setting up. But the first step is for us to file articles of incorporation as we voted on back in February.
well, there were a few of us who volunteered to be on a bylaws committee. I was one. I've not been notified. I just
Okay, so let
wondered-
me stop you, Jan. We're not yet at the point of creating the final bylaws for the community. There's a standard set of interim bylaws that gets us up to the time of
That's
purchase.
what I wanted to know,
Right.
if there was boilerplate that
Boilerplate until we
Rock
get there.
provided, and then we
Yeah.
can tweak them later.
Absolutely.
Exactly,
Okay.
yes.
And one more quickie.
Sorry, only one question. We got to move on to the Zoom
Oh.
people. So if we have time at the end, we'll come back and catch it. Any Zoom questions?
Nope.
Okay, no Zoom questions. All right, let's move on because we are 45 minutes in and we only have an hour and 15 left, so we got to rock and roll here. This is agenda item 5, what it means to be a co-op.
Okay, John.
Alan, why don't we run through these quickly? Because I
Yeah.
think the questions are the key here.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, yeah, number one is security, which means in this context avoiding being sold. And I think we mentioned that before. So just briefly to reiterate, it's built into the Articles of Incorporation that we cannot be sold to a for-profit entity. Once we are incorporated, then that's it. We can only sell by at least a super majority of resident votes to another cooperative. So that's a major security for us going forward.
And the second point here is about voluntary and open membership. This is very simple. We're non-discriminatory. Of course, we're a senior community, so 35-year-olds are not going to be moving in here. So we have to maintain that. But in terms of all the usual things like religion, gender, orientation, et cetera, it's completely open. We are certainly encouraging active participation. Jan just brought up a bylaws committee, and that will be one of several, or actually many committees that we'll be forming to move this process forward and to run ourselves as a co-op. So we are encouraging everyone to join. We'll say more about that a little bit later.
Democratic control. One of the key principles is that we're all equal owners in this. And so the way these co-ops work, and a key principle is that we are all involved in board meetings, in member meetings that do things like set the budget, rules, bylaws, and all of that is noticed, as Kim mentioned, to everyone so that people have an opportunity to participate as equals in a democratic process.
Dave, you have this one.
Autonomy is the next one, thank you. And that really is related to the democratic control that we have. We are not going to be managed anymore by the city of Nevada. We're going to be working all of our issues out on our own. And that will, sometimes be challenging, but it will be, I think, in many ways far better than the current management structure we have under the city of Nevada. We will be
Right.
autonomous. At that same time, we're going to have support, as Kim had mentioned, from Rock and CCCD to help us make good decisions as a community.
That's where the great education and training comes in. We're not left on our own. We have terrific support from Rock USA and CCCD to make sure we're successful.
Education training.
That's what I just did.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Yours is next, Dave.
Community participation. So as an ideal, all of these things we're talking about in these two slides are sort of general co-op principles. And as an ideal, what this means is that we are part of a broader community here. And ideally, we have a symbiotic relationship. We're contributing to the overall Marin environment. And in turn, ideally, we're going to be developing relationships with other like-minded groups in the county that want to support the kind of model community that we see ourselves as in terms of a sort of a sustainable environment for senior living.
So just quickly,
Economic
oh,
participation.
sorry.
Yeah, economic participation. Let's see, right now, we belong to the city, of course. That's what they keep telling us at least. And and they set the rent and they tell us what our budget's going to be. So our budgets and our rents then go to operating the park. They go to satisfying our debt service. And actually, it's the city's debt service, quite frankly, but we're paying for it. And also, it applies then to our capital expenditures, capital projects going forward, which one of these days, I think the city will get around to helping us with that. Now, there are also owner fees that we pay to the city. And has anybody in here started a moderately large corporation and made it work all at once? Well, that's what we're going to be doing. And that's why we have assistance from the, from ROC and CCCD. So that going forward, we do have we'll have carrying charges is what is called instead of rent. Carrying charge is what you pay to a corporation to maintain the carrying expenses of the corporation. So that will be distributed amongst all of us. We'll also do the similar things. We'll have a debt service that we may have to pay, probably will. We'll have capital expenditures, same as we do now, but we'll be doing it actually, so they'll get done in a timely fashion. And then this is all sans owner expenses. We are the owners, but we are nonprofit. So we don't make a profit on anybody here. So that goes out. And then we also decide on the rents and fees that are charged to the non-members. So that's what we will be doing in as far as economic participation. Everybody has a say in what goes on. One caveat to this, though, is that okay, all of the members can all members vote on the carrying charges, but we do have responsibilities as a corporation. We have responsibilities to pay for services and purchases that we make. We have regulatory expenses that by law we must meet, and we have our capital investment expenses that we also need to meet. So we need to vote on our carrying charges, but we have to meet all of our required expenses.
Great. So just briefly, a membership summary. Most important is to really bear in mind that we prevent a sale for a for-profit developer, which means that we own the park. It's open to all households with one membership with one vote per household. So with couples, hopefully you can work it out that you get one vote. And so the agreement to join is really quite simple. We'll have a form. As soon as we have incorporated and we have a bank account, we can start making, asking for funds. And it's basically a simple initial deposit for $25, which is refundable if we don't end up becoming a co-op. Members purchase a share in the Limited Equity Housing Corporation, and eventually we'll make a decision somewhere. It's going to be between $100 and $1,000 per household. It is possible to pay this off over 2 years if you would need to be able to do that. After the Limited Equity Housing Corporation is formed, all future buyers who come into the park, whether you are a renter to the co-op or you are a member of the co-op, they have to be a member of the co-op. So if you sell your home and you're a renter, whoever buys it has to become a member of the co-op, otherwise they can't live here. So again, just bear in mind that we're going through this so that we can own the land collectively underneath our homes and all of these facilities, and it's pretty freeing. All right.
Okay, we have some time for questions now on the membership aspect of it. And then after this, we'll go on to member responsibilities and have another short Q&A period. So Kevin, please come forward. Please just line up behind Kevin there and ask your question.
The health department had the same problem with me. Too many questions. David, you mentioned that, we'll be managing our on-site by ourselves. Of course, we'll have Rook and CCCD helping us, which is huge. But in the paperwork you gave us, you said that we will have management company and on-site manager staff hired to run day-to-day operations. And a number of people I've talked to in the park are very concerned in having that checks and balance, as opposed to just having a few residences and voters in the park making decisions that might need a second opinion.
Absolutely, Kevin. Yes, we will have a management company. That's a requirement of Rock USA. And we need as many checks and balances for all of us crazy old folks. So yeah, we'll have plenty. We'll do fine.
That was essentially my question. I'm Alexis, 38 Marin Valley. But I'm curious, how do we decide on who the management company will be? Will it be the same company we currently have?
That's a possibility, but it's not a certainty. The membership will vote on our management company. We'll look and we'll see exactly what we'll need, and we will find a management company that will meet our needs. And right now we do have one, but things will change in time. So there's a good chance we'll keep the same, but it may change.
Thank you.
And remember that we'll be advised by CCCD on this piece as well.
Yes, my question, Janine Bradley, Sunrise Lane, to John about rents and fees to non-members. You were saying that we established that. I thought the rents were then controlled by the city of Novato.
No, the co-op will own the land. So we will be renting the space out to tenants. Tenants will then pay rent. We, as owners of the land, will decide what that rent will be.
But it's under rent control
Yes.
of the
Yes,
city of
there
Novato.
are plenty
So
of
we can't
safeguards.
arbitrarily double their rent.
No,
Right.
Okay,
But
we
they will
can,
be subject to CPI.
yeah.
We have
Yeah.
we have a slide on that in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
thank you.
I'm Jan Thomas, Fallen Leaf. I'm here about checks and balances too. I suppose part of that will be written into the bylaws, what recourse is for grievances. But if we cannot decide amongst ourselves, will Rock and CCCD will they act as intermediaries when we can't settle our own disputes?
Let's ask Kim or Randy to
Yep.
speak to that. How does that happen in other
Co-ops.
resident-owned communities, co-ops?
You're a democratic community, and so basically we can help you to clarify things and to answer questions. There are a few things in the bylaws. You go back to your bylaws will have a way to resolve disagreements. And so basically you own it. We don't own it. There's no, you have laws and so forth, but we don't, we can help you to settle disputes, but not make the decisions for you.
And just to add to that, I think we'll probably end up having a grievance committee that will help solve it internally. Obviously, it's best if we can do that. So we have some outside coaching, and we'll do what we can to set up a mechanism to handle these things amongst ourselves.
And if that doesn't work, we'll provide boxing gloves.
Yeah.
Lawyers.
I like your snark, John. Ellen Jane, tax ramifications of all of this, if we're owners of the land, and right now we pay an in lieu tax,
Mhm.
which is very low, is that going to change any?
Yet to be determined.
TBD.
It won't change on your home. So the in lieu tax that you mentioned on your personal property should remain the same.
Mhm.
The corporation, the nonprofit, will have its own tax structure.
Yeah, Ellen Jane was referring to what
Property
the
tax.
97 document that sort of initially established an in lieu of tax fee that we pay, Randy, to the city of Novato each year.
Yeah, and you can either pay the HCD directly an annual fee or pay property taxes.
Yeah,
But
no,
that, but that's based on the personal property of the home, not.
no, she's talking about a park-wide in lieu of property tax.
Corporate
that we pay.
tax.
Oh, okay, you are talking about.
Mhm.
Okay, any questions on Zoom? Okay,
We have 2 questions on Zoom. So RC Wilkerson, if you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Richard Wilkerson, 2 Fallen Leaf Way. If you have multiple homes, do you have multiple shares and multiple votes?
No,
no.
you have 1 vote per household.
And 1 vote, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that we are prohibited from having, people are prohibited from owning more than 1 home in the park.
That's right.
Randy and Kim, please.
Yeah, I
continue.
just want to say there is, for people that, any situation that you currently have would be grandfathered in. Only resident owners will be members of the cooperative. And so if you live in one of those units, that would be the unit that would have the vote. I just want to say the reason that there is a limit. So after the sale, people cannot, new people coming in could not have a rental. And that's because if you think about it, you really want people making decisions about the cooperative based on their residency, not on you could have a different viewpoint if you were renting something out. And so that's just the basis for that prohibition that takes place for new people coming in.
Okay.
There was a person with their hand up, but they have lowered it. So I think that's it for online
That's it?
questions.
Oh, and just to clarify, I think our current situations, we rentals are not allowed here either.
Right, correct.
Right, so it's not different in that
Shouldn't be anything new. All right, moving on.
John.
Member responsibilities, okay? We've gone through some of these already that, first of all, you're an owner. You become an owner, a co-owner in the co-op. So you own as much as all of the other members, no more and no less. So with that, just like owning a car, when you own a car, it's a little different from leasing one or renting one. That you have other responsibilities to maintain it. Whereas when you rent it, you come in and you take the car, you go drive it and bring it back, pay your fee, and that's it. But here it's a little different. Owning, just like owning your home, you need to take care of it. Here we own the entire park, so we need to come together and take care of it. Another responsibility is to hold the board of directors accountable. Okay, the board of directors are your servants. They will do things that are much easier for a few people to do than for everybody to do. So that's their job, and that's their only job, okay? So you need to hold them accountable for doing just that. Do what I ask you to do, no more, no less. You get to vote on issues. You vote on the board members. You vote on their tenure. If you don't like them, you vote them out. If you want somebody else, you vote them in. You also vote on the carrying charges, as I mentioned, and anything else. We want a tennis court, fine, let's vote on it. You want to pay for it? Well, we need to vote on that too. So, and the other thing is, as a responsibility, we will have rules and regulations. I mean, imagine driving on the freeway if there's no speed limit. It would be, well, let's not go there. So we need the same thing here. We need to have rules and regulations that we can enforce. And there's no use having those unless we can enforce them. And that's why we pretty much don't have much right now, because the city is not enforcing our rules and regs. It will be different as an LAHC. Everybody will benefit from that, I guarantee it. Taking pride, again, just like buying a car. You own your car, you'd like to keep it clean, you like to keep it maintained, you like to keep it working the way you want it. And you have pride in ownership of your assets. And it's the same thing here, that we're not renters. We can take pride in our situation here. It's going to be fairly unique in this county and fairly unique throughout the state, what we have. We can really be proud of what we develop. And the other thing is that we're equal. Each of us as a member, we're equal members. So there's only one class of membership in the park. As far as residents in total, there's two classes. There's us as members, and there's also the renters as tenants. So we can treat all of each of us then as we would ourselves.
So we have time for some questions here on membership. Again, we don't yet know what the membership price will be. We hope we will soon, but we don't know it yet. But please, this is a time to ask any question about your benefits and responsibilities should you decide to become members. And after this, we'll talk about what being a renter or non-member will look like. So please come forward with any questions on membership.
And I just want to mention that I'm taking notes on all the questions, and we'll look at the video afterwards, and we'll get a question and answer fact sheet back to you, either put on the website or get that information back to you some other way, so the whole community can kind of benefit from what you all have been asked and how we've tried to respond.
Please.
I just have one simple question.
Name, please.
I'm Edie Tannum Morales on 36 Clubview. I just have one question. How many of the homes in this park are rented? Do we know? Do we have any number?
Should be zero.
Should be zero. There might be, there could be, as far as I know, there's zero, but there could be some.
Legally zero.
Yeah.
Okay.
Legally zero, that's the answer.
Janine Bradley, Sunrise Lane. John, again, I like some of your information. Owners required, like a car, will we be required to have homeowners that have insurance, fire insurance, liability insurance? None of that is known now, whether my neighbor has any of that or not.
Yeah, insurance is it's really an issue. It's a good question, because if for some reason it's not available, then we can't really require it. But there is also self-insurance. Self-insurance means being very careful in your home. Self-insurance means doing what the fire district recommends you do to keep your home fire safe. But yes, if insurance is available, we will, most likely, I shouldn't say that for sure. Again, the residents will decide. But there also, I think, is a mandate from Rock USA that we are insured.
The property.
Yeah,
as
the
well.
property, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, the property.
I think we're going to need legal guidance.
That's
and
right.
Guidance from CCCD and Rock USA on this point about requiring homeowners, individual homeowners, to carry insurance. If so, how much, et cetera. You can see it's a thorny
That's right.
problem, particularly in this climate where the insurance companies are cutting back on offering insurance. So it's a needle we're going to have to thread.
Tim or Randy, do you have thoughts on how this works in other parks?
At the moment, most communities are requiring insurance of the individual homeowners. But again, you guys are right. Insurance is becoming a more and more difficult issue almost weekly here in the state of California. There is, of course, the state fund type insurance for fire. And that seems to be the biggest issue. You know, if your house catches on fire, will it catch your neighbor's house on fire? And then whose liability is that? And that's partly why. And the other is trip and fall. You know, somebody going up your steps could fall. And the deep pockets, of course, are the land. And so oftentimes the owners of these parks require insurance because, you know, they don't want to take the hit too. So we'll try to require insurance on the individual houses as long as insurance is available. You know, John's right about that statement.
Michelle Rivers, View Ridge Drive. There's a huge variance of lot sizes in the park. Will fees or land fees address that, or is everybody paying one standard fee?
The way we see it right now may change, but the way we see it right now is everybody will pay a standard fee on their lot. The home prices will vary. You know, I have a great view and he doesn't, so my home's more valuable.
Of course.
That's more what we're gonna, what will matter. But the lot itself, you know, it's everybody owns it is the thing. So it's owned by the corporation, not the individual.
Michelle, is your question whether or not all of the carrying charges / rents are going to be equal for everybody?
Actually, yes, addressing to the land, the sizes of the lots. Some people have very small lots, some people have larger lots. So I just wanted to know if there was going to be a disparity on that or whether it's just one standard fee. I'm not talking about the value of the homes because
Oh, yeah.
obviously that's completely different.
Well, there's another factor in there too. That is that when SAID owned the property way back when, every time somebody moved out and somebody else moved in, the rent went up. So we end up now with homes that for no rhyme or reason geographically have rents that vary by $200, $300, $400.
I think
So-
we're going to
But
need
that's
some
based on the
guidance.
home, not on the land.
That's right.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
We have.
No,
one-
it's a rent.
Okay.
We've got one question.
Okay.
Okay.
online. One question online from Joe. Joe, if you can go ahead.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, Joe.
Okay, good. So this is kind of a out of the ballpark question, but I'm looking at the potential, and not really an accurate statement that way, but assuming that the co-op and the LEHC and the board members are elected and co-op and committees are established, what are the options the residents who are the renters of the owners of the co-op and renters of the land ownership have when there are questionable board member actions or irregular attitudes, I guess, that
Joe, excuse me, Joe, I'm going to interrupt
gonna
you
ask-
because that's our next slide.
okay,
we're
I'm
gonna
talking about removing or replacing outside of elections. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's all-
okay, sorry.
Yeah, that will only be up to members, not to renters.
Yeah, that's right. There, of course, as John said earlier, if the community is at large decides they want to remove a board member, the members, I should say, if the members decide to do it, there's a process to do that, like recalling someone. Renters will not have a voice in the, as you'll see in a second. Rentals will not have a voice in board formation.
Okay, I'll re-ask
Now
my
there's a
question then.
process under the PAC bylaws for doing a similar thing. So you
Well,
can
when PAC
imagine a
bylaws
similar
are in
process on
accordance
the
with
co-op
what the
bylaws.
what the residents want. Yes, thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Joe.
Okay, the next slide here is on becoming a non-co-op member, just as I said. I think the main thing that you have to understand is if you choose to stay out of membership, if you choose to continue to rent rather than join up as a co-op, that jeopardizes our whole ballgame here. So it will substantially decrease the probability of us becoming a self-owned co-op. And you can imagine what that will be. All you have to do is think back to last year and the threat that we were under. Do we want to stay under the city and have them tell us what to do? Do we want to be sold to a private developer? No. So if the way we forestall that is to become a member. That's the primary consequence. As I said a minute ago, non-members will not vote on key decisions like who the board members are. They will not have a voice in the setting of rental, the monthly rent charges, or any policies in the co-op that are being run. The repairs and improvements that members would normally get to vote on, that's closed off to non-members. Non-members are tenants of the co-op. They will pay rent to the co-op, and they will be subject to the Nevada Rent Control Ordinance, as well as annual CPI increases, which I believe you should count on if you choose to remain a renter rather than becoming a member.
There may be fees on top of that as well.
Yeah, and you are protected, as Kim and Randy said a little bit earlier, by the California Mobile Home Residency Law, and it has to do with disputes with the owner. In this case, the owner would be the co-op. So there are some protections built in for renters there. You can go online and see what those are, but should not be a huge factor in your decision.
Kim and Randy, can you, do you have anything you'd like to add in terms of how non-co-op member renters are typically handled? What rights do they have, and how does all of that work in some of the other co-ops you've been involved in?
Yeah, basically you will remain a renter of a space like you are now. So that really won't change for you. And so policies set forth by the city or a private owner or the co-op in this case, you have no vote in and no voice in. So it is encouraged to join the co-op. So you do have the voting on the policies, and it's part of the self-governance that the community as a whole is going to do for the membership. Kim, do you have anything to add?
I would just add that, this is an endeavor that you're all doing together. And so if possible, I mean, you should really, really try to be a member, because you're going to have requirements on your loan, and the city may also have requirements as to how many people are co-op members in order to get a loan from Rock USA Capital, and in order the city may have some thresholds as well.
Thanks.
Great.
Any other questions? Any Zoom questions? So Joe, this would be the time to ask a follow-up question on your non-member person if you have one, or Kevin, please come forward. Anyone else?
Okay. So my question was really related co-op member, co-op owner, and not necessarily related to a non-owner, but being a liberal, I believe that everybody should have equal rights. But my question again is, if there is a reason that some of the activities, either board member, committee member, or some sort of a regulation or some sort of a requirement after the corporation is set up, assuming that I'm still going to need a clarification at some point in time about the voting rights of the residents and the 80% requirement. But my point is that there's a question in my mind that we should have something in the bylaws or in the rules that if there's an issue, regardless of what the election period is for board members, be it 2 years, 4 years, whatever, we should have a methodology of being able to question and possibly remove anybody in any of the ruling or regulating bodies of the corporation, and to maintain some sort of equity amongst all the people in the park, including non-co-op members. And this is just to make sure that everybody's treated equally regardless of their ownership. And I'm sure that I would never not be a co-op member just for the fee there, because I understand the requirement. So that's my question, if it's
Okay,
understood.
and maybe we should just turn that straight to Kim and Randy about recall. I believe it's all over the
Bylaws.
literature that we've seen
Yeah.
in bylaws, so.
Yeah, there's two elements, I think, to Joe's question. I mean, the first is that everyone is open to be, a cooperative principle is open membership. So everyone that lives in the park has the option of,
Lost you, Kim.
everyone in the park has the opportunity to be a member. So, you know, that's open. The membership fees are very, very low. It can be paid over time. I think that was already shared. And I don't know any set of bylaws that doesn't have a recall element and doesn't have procedures to address, you know, malfeasance or disagreements with board members.
Yes,
yeah.
remember that board members are elected. And so if you don't like something your board is doing, replace them, vote them out. That's part of your rights in the co-op as members.
Right, and what I'm saying is that the obvious notion I hear is, well, you know, run for the board. But what I'm saying is that sometimes it takes a little bit of an input to members to straighten out by, you know, having a questionable recall of not just the particular action, but of the board member itself. And
No,
there's
but-
committees that, and I understand the committees will have a certain amount of liberty to actually operate under whatever rules or guidelines have been given. So that's why I'm questioning the whole design.
Yeah, okay, thank you. If there's more on that, we can discuss that offline. Kevin?
All right, real quick one. I'm thrilled to see more people here. It looks like we have almost 100, but as you know, we've got over 400 residences. We don't want them showing up at the 11th hour because they're missing out on important meetings. How are we going to get more participation? And also just sending them out information if they're not going to come to the meeting.
We'll talk about at the end.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yes.
Kevin.
I would just say
I
this
can
is
just
about
add-
the level of turnout we had in the February workshop, and we ended up having about 270 people come for the February vote.
If I could just add, I mean, this is something, the best way to get people to come to a meeting is those one-on-one kinds of discussions. And so I really encourage you to talk to your neighbors, talk to the people that live near you, the people that you know, and encourage them to become involved because it's really, really important.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
good
Great.
point.
We need
Any
to go
other-
out and rattle cages.
Any other questions?
An-
Okay.
Any other questions on being a non-member here in the room? What those ramifications might be. Okay, thank you. Let's go on.
So the process in enrolling, right now, the attorney is filing articles of incorporation so that we can then open a bank account and we can start asking folks to join the co-op with a small refundable fee of $25. We need a minimum of 40% of the households need to join the co-op before we can obtain the pre-acquisition loan. This is really important because this is the loan that helps us do some of the due diligence and covers all of those expenses. And as we said earlier, if we end up not becoming a co-op, that is forgiven. So we really encourage everybody to take advantage of this opportunity and join as soon as we can get the membership papers out. So as I said, $25 refundable joining fee. Members must pay, when we determine whether it's going to be $100 to $1,000, members must pay 25% of the full membership fee by the time of acquisition. And then they have 2 years to pay off the rest of it if they so choose. So we're trying to make it as easy and accessible to as many people as possible. And my understanding is that once the fee is fixed, it's fixed. So we're going to focus on this on the September 19th workshop in more detail. So we do encourage you to come to that. It's going to be an early evening workshop on Thursday, the 19th. Here in the ballroom. So look out for information on that. I think that's all I have on the membership enrollment. So let's move on.
Guess what? Another question period. We are doing great on time. You guys have been fabulous. We've been fabulous for moving through this. So let's just open it up to any questions at all. I did cut a couple of people off. Jan, I cut you off. So please come ask your other question.
Okay, Alan, I'd
yeah.
like to address something online. There's a discussion going online.
Oh,
And
sorry.
that is that it's about owning 2 homes or more. That first of all, if you're a resident here, you're going to live in a home, and you have to be. If you live in a home, you need to be a resident. So you can choose to be a member or not. But if you own 2 homes, you really can't do that because you need to live in your home to be a resident and a member. Okay. So if you own 2 homes, that will not be permitted. You need to offload one of your homes. Now, if you're in a situation that I know somebody that's in that situation, where one of their partners lives in one home and the other lives in the other home. Yeah, that's I don't own the other home. I just own my home. Okay. So yeah. You have to live in the home that you own, and you can't live in 2 homes.
Okay, my question, Janine Bradley, Sunrise Lane. Membership buy-in one time only or annually or?
One time.
And if new buyers buy in, they buy in with a membership fee also?
Yes.
Thank you.
Required to.
Yeah,
The membership
and
fee
the
will-
membership fee you paid is refunded back to you once you sell.
Yeah.
That's right.
You get your membership fee back once you sell.
Yep.
Just a comment, I would appreciate if, I know we need legal fees and we need them to keep coming in. I need to know when it's like, we need that money now. Because I don't pay up until I find out, the bill is due. So please let us know. It's like, for people that just pay when you beg us to, I'm one of those people, you have to say, we need the money right now, we're running out of money for our laws, our legal position.
You're going to be the head of our membership committee. So Kevin, on that score, yes, and we cannot start the membership drive until we get our articles of incorporation. We hope that's coming very quickly, and we would love to be able to announce that we actually have it in hand, and then we'll be firing up the membership process.
Can I just add one thing, and that is that the membership fee doesn't really do much to purchase the property.
Oh, yeah.
It's really just about having some reserves because your resident, the maximum your resident fee, your membership fee will be is $1,000.
Buys the ticket, not the theater.
It's a sign of support. It's
Yeah.
a sign of community support for this project.
Jeannie Skybrook, 16 Marin View Drive. What happens when you pass away and leave your house to your kids and they want to move in? Can they just seamlessly move in since you've already paid for for everything? Do they have to repay that $1,000 membership thing, or can they just
No.
take over your house?
Because that would be refunded to your estate.
Oh, okay. So
And-
I get it back and then they
Yeah.
give it to you again?
It's
And
not
it's-
$1,000, please.
Oh, okay.
It's 100 to 1,000. We
Yeah.
don't yet know.
Well, I'm looking at the highest number so I can be prepared for whatever.
That's right.
That's good.
Yes. Okay.
So as long as your kids are 55 and over, they can move in.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
And as far as that membership fee, it will be somewhere between 100, that's the minimum, and the cap on that is 1,000. So the answer is 100 or 1,000. What I want to say is the answer is easy. The question is the difficult part. So we're working on the questions then to come up with the right answer.
Don Hilly, Panorama Drive. Have there been any studies done as to how membership in a co-op like this affects the property value of our homes? Will that change when we change ownership?
Yeah,
I
Kim
think
can answer that.
Kim has a good,
Yeah.
Kim can talk about
Yeah,
that.
Rock has, and the typical thing is that the values go up.
Hmm.
Because of
Yeah,
that added security.
Yeah, I concur with that. Again, some of the risk, and the lenders will even tell you this too. It's risky to loan on the personal property in a park because it could be sold, the rent could go up, or it could even be redeveloped to something else. This particular model gives absolutely security to that asset. And now it's going to remain as a mobile home community into perpetuity. So it does increase the value.
Thank you.
Great.
Any questions online? And this is wide open.
Yes, Anila Manning. Anila, can you unmute yourself?
There
you go.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so in the
Please
wonderful
identify yourself.
handout, and thank you so much for all the handouts. There's one called benefits, and the quote is, if we don't become the Marin Valley Cooperative, the likelihood of being sold to a for-profit entity is very high. What do you base that statement on? Because we've lived here for 15 years, and I remember years ago, council members saying, oh yeah, we get 3 or 4 people a month who want to buy the place. And they just throw them straight into the trash. So could you please say what you base that statement on?
Who wants to
Shall I take that?
Well,
you-
okay, yeah, maybe 15 years ago that wasn't, but last year it was. We saw what happened last year, and there's no denying that that is in the air now too. So that's pretty much what we base that on, and plus the fact that in about 2 years, a little less than 2 years, then the loan will have been paid off, and so that leaves a valuable chunk of real estate here, accessible and exposed to someone wanting to make a profit. And there are, like I said, there are many out there right now. The vultures are circling,
And the city council needs money.
and as
Yeah,
city council
so we
needs
know
money,
that.
they always need money,
Yep.
yeah.
And city council members change. And
Yep.
right now we have a pretty supportive city council in this process.
And we're still seeing people who offered to buy participating in city council meetings. They have not gone away.
Now, there is no guarantee that if we don't become a co-op, that will happen. But it's sort of like driving your car without insurance. You know, there's no guarantee that you're going to get in a wreck, but you know, the vulnerability is there. You're much better off having insurance. That's what we're doing here, is the equivalent to insurance, so that we can have the security to know that this will never be sold to a for-profit entity.
Yep, we're
Yes.
protecting our future.
Yeah, remember that you're sitting on a very valuable piece of land, and this is a way to protect that.
Great. All right.
Any other
Thank you.
questions, either on Zoom or here in the room?
Yes.
Okay.
2 more on Zoom now. RC Wilkerson, please go.
Thank you. Richard here again, to Fallen Leaf. So how do I get to this question? The projected cost of the purchase is higher than what voters are willing to pay. We can go in another direction. But my question is there now just kind of a fuzzy number, a benchmark, an estimated amount below which we're aiming at that includes what the offer is from the city and what the projections are in terms of cost from the engineer, and kind of whatever that whole ball of wax is? I'm not even sure what to call all those things together, but what at that there must, you guys must have some idea or some fuzzy number around which we're shooting for.
Well, I can tell you right now that the answer is no. We have objectives. Yes, we want to own this the park here, and we want to pay as little as possible to do that. There are still many things outstanding, you know, negotiation with the city. We have our due diligence to find out for real, actually, what our costs are for the infrastructure replacement and maintenance. And we don't know what our insurance is gonna cost yet. We know that the insurance that we're paying to the city is way more than what we would pay, but we don't know what the minimum there might be. So there's still a lot of things outstanding to come up with a cost right now. But even there, part of what Kim showed and talked about earlier about the woods, they had a huge fee to pay to buy their park, but they managed to do it. Then they managed to do it so that they can afford to live there. So as soon as we know what our criteria are, we can be creative to manage that and modify that so that we will be able to live here.
That's what the pro formas are for, aren't they, John?
Yes.
Yeah.
Carol Rosfold,
Mm.
177 Marin Valley Drive. I think we're looking a little too close to our situation because it has been online and been talked about in national news about the selling of mobile home parks and the driving out of elderly people all over the United States. There was even a book written, and I don't remember the author's name, but the title was Born on Third Base. And he was the son of a very rich man who made his money in something like mayonnaise. And but he took his inheritance and put it into fighting for the mobile homes. This is in the East Coast. And this was in like 2020. So it's been a long time problem across the United States. We need to take our heads out of the sand and stop thinking it's just Novato and Novato's poor management of their assets and think in a larger view. It's happening here. It's happening to us. We are lucky because most of us are better educated than the people in Georgia and other places that live in mobile home parks. We have more money at our disposal. We really are lucky to be here. So, you know, get your head out of the sand and go online and put in mobile home park history and see what you find.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for that. And actually, it's a very good point. And
I'm
Yeah.
sure Randy and Kim have seen a lot of
yeah,
examples.
so I'd like to
Yeah.
say that that is
And-
what Rock USA is doing, and that's why they're, you know, that we have joined forces with Rock USA.
Yeah, it's
They are-
exactly why Rock USA is here and how it
Yes.
started for that very reason.
That's
as-
right.
as seniors were being dislocated. And CCD is also, I'm working for CCD for that very reason. I've read those same articles and said, hey, I got to do something about this. This is wrong.
That's right, but we need to start at home.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a huge effort that we're undertaking, but we're doing it. We're getting there. And as we mentioned before, there's 2 roads that we're working on. One is working with the city and at that acquisition from PAC. And the other is what we're doing right here in figuring out, okay, once we acquire the park, then what? This is what. So it's here we are, we're in our 80s. Well, I am. Some of us aren't, but you know, we're elderly people. And you know, it's we have a limited amount of energy, so we need to work at home, but we also need to support Rock USA, CCCD for the work that they're doing internationally and at least nationally to you know, to address the concerns of mobile home parks being you know, shot out of the water like ducks across the nation. So thank you very much for that point. That's
Yeah,
very
and
good.
just one more point. We can become a model for Marin County.
Yep.
And for Northern California. So there can be a lot of good that comes out of this if we're successful. All right.
Hi,
Marty Gelman. I'll start by saying how grateful I am for all of you putting this together. The next question is when we die and our kids inherit the property, do they have any responsibilities if they want to sell it, or is it just they own it and they can do whatever they want with it in that regard?
They have responsibilities, yes. Number one is if they become, the owners, then they have the same responsibilities as all owners here. If they want to sell the park, yes, they can sell the home. They can do that.
Okay.
And there's certain responsibilities there in terms of informing a new owner that of the home that they must be a member, and that membership fee that they would inherit because you leave, then they would return that to become an owner, or sell it to someone else who would become an owner.
So Marty, if they wanted to live here, they would need to be 55 or older.
My kids are not going to live here.
Yeah.
They're not at that
So some,
age. They're still raising children.
yeah. So they would be able to sell it just like you can now. No restrictions, except, we are working on, this floating idea of affordable units within the park, but I don't see that being a problem based on the income survey that we did. So yeah,
There
we're
will
good.
be information that
Yeah.
will be given to members for exactly how they can go about just what you're asking about.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And I think one point I'd like to add is that it applies to members and non-members. So even if you decide not to become a member, when you want to sell your home, whoever buys your home has to become a member.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marty.
Hi.
Uh-oh.
Can this be adjustable?
Yeah, could someone help, please?
I can do it.
Okay.
Laura Cragen Cronin, 58 Clubview. My question has to do with, okay, if the membership fee is going to vary somewhere between 100 and 1,000, if you really want a good response of people wanting to become members, keep it closer to 100. That is my suggestion.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And, as I mentioned before, that is an answer. And we don't have all the questions yet. So we get the questions first and then we come up with the answer. That's usually the way things work.
Thank you.
I'm Alice Burge. I live at 186 Marin Valley Drive, and I'm 82. And I'm listening to $1,000. That can't happen with me at all. I take care of myself. I have 2 grown sons and they have families. So I don't have access to coming up with anything. Really, if the minimum could be less than that. I mean, if I have everything in my little mobile home.
Thank you. And,
Yeah.
and we understand the situation. You are not alone. And the whole idea is to get as many people as we can to become members.
Okay, I
Thank-
hear all these numbers going back and
No, I
forth.
understand
And
that.
I think I'm not part of that.
We're just showing you the limits, minimum and maximum. We have no
Okay.
idea where things will fall yet.
All right.
There's one other thing we should mention too, and that is that, the fee to sign up initially, $25. And then you have 2 years to pay off that, the entire amount. So
Which would be.
that's a lot.
We don't know what that is yet.
$1,000.
We don't know yet.
No, we don't know yet. Okay.
And
well,
that
maybe my kids will have
$25,
to do it.
that $25 is refundable to you if you decide not to proceed
Okay.
with
Yeah.
full membership.
All right.
right.
All right. Well, are we going to get some kind of literature handed? 'Cause
Yes.
I'd like to.
Absolutely.
The next training will be on this.
Yeah, I want to have my sons look at this before, you
Sure.
know.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Okay.
We want everybody to look at it very
Yeah.
closely.
We have 2 questions online.
Okay, just 1 second, Maggie.
Joe, go ahead.
Wait a minute,
Sorry.
Dave and Joe. We got one more on the floor and then we'll
Got it.
go.
Sorry.
I just want to address Alice's concern.
And maybe there's other people that might feel this way, that some of us that felt they could afford it could possibly sponsor each other, our neighbors and friends that we've had for years, and not let them fall through these cracks.
Yes, thank you. We are looking at that.
Thank you, Maggie. Our intention is to not let anybody fall through.
Okay, online.
You want to hear from me, Joe? Hey, listen, I want to thank everybody there, especially the Roth people. And I may have given the wrong impression. I'm going to be a member, so you don't think that I'm not interested in that. And John, John, I'm glad that you're on the same timeline that I'm on, and we're getting close to that that good old age timeline. So anyway, thank you very much. I'm going to sign off here. That's why I wanted to say something, that I want to thank everybody. And by the way, I've been following everything, and I don't say it like I don't know what I'm talking about, but sometimes, like my partner says, you got to calm down and calm down your tone. But I'm okay with everybody and everything. And just thank you very much. I'm
Thank you,
signing
Joe.
All right. Are there any more questions on anything?
Narda
Well,
Gaskell.
Sorry,
We
one
have
more
one more
question.
section to cover.
Yeah.
One more online.
I know.
Talk. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
This is Narda and Lenny Gaskell. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So if we are successful and purchase the park and in 2 years the loan is paid off, will that affect the carrying charges in any way?
Unknown at this point because we still don't have the pro forma and
That's
cost
right.
analysis and
So we
and
have,
we also have to build up our reserves, Lenny, because we might not get those back from the city.
Could you repeat the question? I'm just recording it.
If the once we own ourselves and we pay off the mortgage or the loan, whether that money that goes to the city, will that bring down our space rentals? But that might all be part of the loan requirements and pro forma.
That's one of the, that's an item in the
Yeah.
negotiations, but it probably won't make any difference.
Yeah.
all right, last question it looks. Michaela?
Hi, I'm Trish
Oh,
from
Trish, sorry.
View Ridge Drive, and this is a question for Rock. I had heard that there was a park in San Diego that you were helping the owners to buy, and it didn't succeed because there wasn't enough of ownerships, enough owners voting. You didn't have the majority or whatever the numbers you needed. If that's true, what lessons have you learned that could help us to buy our park?
The answer is better communication, and that's what we're trying to do here today.
That's right.
I want to say that there wasn't interest. There was one resident who filed a lawsuit, and it, I mean, in our opinion, it was pretty frivolous, but it was not because there wasn't enough support.
Okay, great. Yeah, just anything that can be learned would be great so that we can be successful at this.
Yeah, that lawsuit was unfortunate, and that's why we're trying to communicate a little bit better with everybody, because I think that particular individual did not understand some of the process and thus tried to settle it that way, which was unfortunate. And so we're really trying to communicate with you guys here every month, and that's what we're going to do.
And I think the other thing I just wanted to add is that we are very sensitive to the importance of making sure the whole PAC community has voting rights on how this works out as we dovetail from the PAC community making decisions as a whole to co-op members making decisions. We're very aware of the importance of balancing off rights as we're going through that transition.
So we have learned a lot, and we have a lawyer that's working on this with Rock USA and with CCCD to make sure that every step we make is the right step, and that we're covered, and that we're doing what we need to do, and that we would be as protected as we possibly can from any sort of wrongdoing, litigation, or any sort of foul play. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because we really have learned a lot from that. That's why things are going so slow, really, is that Rock USA said, and CCC both said, okay, let's slow down and let's take this one step at a time here. Things are a little bit different from what we had anticipated when we started. So instead of going a straight line, we've had to go like this.
And I think part of the challenge has been adapting Rock USA national rules to California state requirements. So that's why they're slowing down and making sure everything is in order.
Yeah,
That sounds
there's some
great.
conflicts in there.
Yeah.
So we're working them out.
And the other thing too is when we are to the point where we can do a membership drive, really talking to our neighbors and understanding what each of the individual households feel or what questions they have will be so helpful, I'm sure.
And
Thank
we'll
you.
say a lot more about that on September 19th.
That's right.
Thank
That's
you.
why we're doing this, and we're doing a fireside chats, and we're trying to get people in to communicate as much as possible. What's your issue? What's your question? What's your hesitation? We want to answer your questions. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right,
Thank you,
last,
Trish.
I think it's last question, then we will wrap up. We
Yeah.
got just a
Few
couple
more
of closing
slides.
items yet. Maggie?
Another good reason to not let our friends and neighbors fall through the cracks.
Amen.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, so what's next? We've talked about it. There'll be a workshop on September 19th, 5 to 6:30 p.m. And we're going to be focusing on the membership and some upcoming decisions / votes. Dave will talk more about this, the rest of this slide here on the membership drive and those votes and decisions coming up.
I think the membership drive is a fairly straightforward thing. We're going to be working to develop sort of the forms and agreements that people need to sign to be members. We're going to be figuring out what's the best way to do outreach to the park as a whole. And in particular, if anyone would like to help with that as an ambassador for this project, we'd be very interested in hearing from you. We'll probably be soliciting people, but if anyone wants to, just come up and offer help, even today, we'd be interested in talking with you. And that will be a process that occurs over time. And that will start enabling the kinds of votes that we need to be doing. So there's several balls in the air. There's our existing situation with the authorities of the PAC that we're taking into account. There are all of the relevant California statutes that Kim talked about that affect how we need to be governed. There are City of Nevada regulations that will affect us. There's the ROC/CCCD program itself and all of the various requirements that it has, leading eventually towards a loan. And then there's also, John can well tell you all of the ongoing developments in the PAC city negotiations. What we're trying to do is figure out how all of those can fit together and dovetail into a legally sound plan for developing the co-op and the framework under which it operates. So that's one of the main things that we're working on. We're also working on formalizing our relationship with ROC and CCCD. So right now, despite the fact that you've heard them a number of times, they've been putting an amazing amount of resources into helping us be successful. They're doing that without any sort of formal agreement with them. And so we will begin at some point soon to develop formal agreements with them where we're signing up for their technical assistance. We'll be signing up for ideally a pre-development loan that will help us with some of the pre-sale tasks that need to be done before the co-op itself takes over any sale that's negotiated between the PAC and the city. So those are a few of the key things that will be happening next, and it'll be done via votes. Once we have articles of incorporation in place, we'll be doing a number of decisions amongst probably the co-op board, co-op members, and probably still some PAC board decisions that will make all of this gel And we're trying to figure out the best sequence and manner in which each of those need to be made.
All right.
Okay, yeah, as far as budget projections, first I want to answer a question online that said, gee, what about the twins in membership? And it actually, the members cannot be employees. So they can either be employees, or if they want to retire, they can be members, but they can't be both here. So, yeah. Oh, yes, actually they would be renters, yeah. Okay, going on then to developing reliable budget projections. Okay, right now we have the Finance Committee, and Steve is the chair of the Finance Committee. Steve Plotry is also the CFO of the corporation and the treasurer of the PAC board. And there are two subcommittees in the Finance Committee right now. One is a pro forma committee. Now we have David King, Steve, and Todd Rogers on that committee, and all of them are professional and very versed financial experts. So I feel really good about this group with developing our pro formas. Now, pro forma covers a lot of area. So we'll have pro formas initially just to know, we'll set those up ourselves unofficially to sort of assess, okay, what can we afford? What can we do? How does any particular value fit in when we find out what insurance is going to happen, when we find out what our property, or what is it, our property tax is going to be for the county, and when we find out what our due diligence says about our capital investment projects going forward, as well as negotiations with the city. So there's still a lot of numbers in the air before we come up with something there. But this is a tool. Actually, David King developed a very nice tool here. He calls it a toy. Now, I think we talked about heads in the sand, but we're going to be in the sandbox playing with this toy and just developing all the different scenarios that are possible from any particular input. So it's going to be a really nice exercise. I'm really looking forward to this subcommittee project going forward. Now, our other subcommittee then will have to do with what we're talking about here before, about people falling through the cracks. We hope to not have any cracks that people would fall through, first of all. So the other subcommittee has to do then with financial resources that are available internally, what we might develop and what we might generate internally, but also external resources. We have found many external resources. There are many throughout the county. All these different, there's the county, they have resources, and then all the various nonprofits in the county have resources for low income, for seniors, for paying rent, for paying utilities, and it goes on and on. So we're developing a catalog of these to assist people as we go forward. So that's a lot of, that covers a lot of space. We haven't done this before. We used to have the humanitarian fund. The city took it away. So we have this to replace it, basically, only do much better job with it. The other thing here, the property condition assessment, we have there's a line item in our budget, in our CIP budget for the park to do this. First of all, we have no idea really what our costs are going forward. What do we have to replace? When do we have to replace it? We've done several studies on this in the past, but they were armchair studies. Nobody's been out here with a shovel to go down and see if is that pipe really there? Is it really made of steel, or is it just this rusty skeleton that's left? You know, we don't know these things. So again, we're one of the projects we're trying to get the city to move on and get this going so we can find out what is the condition of the park. The other things are we're going to be doing what's called due diligence. And it's very similar to the condition assessment, but due diligence covers a lot more. So we need to know then the park condition assessment. That's number one. The votes to approve going forward with the purchase, PAC residents first, and then co-op members. And that's according to our ENA. Exactly how we're going to sort that out, and that residents is everybody in the park, whereas members are households. So, you know, there's a difference there. We haven't sorted out exactly how that's going to work yet, but it shouldn't be too difficult. We have requirements not only with Rock Capital for our loan, we have a requirement with the ENA, with the city, as well as just knowing what the condition of our park is. So I think that kind of wraps it up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Quick to the mic, quick. We are approaching rapidly our end time.
So how would utilities be paid with the co-op? Different than right now it's being paid?
Don't know.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
see.
Thank you.
All right. So where to find this deck? There will,
So
this slide
could I,
deck.
could I just answer? I don't see there being a huge difference.
Yeah.
right.
Utilities are utilities. I don't think there's going to be a big change. Whether you're a
Except by the
renter
u-
or a co-op member in terms of
Yeah.
what your utilities will be.
The utilities will change, they're going up, you know, PG&E rates are going up and so forth, but there's actually assistance for members for that. Who reads the meter? You know, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
There'll be some
We'll see.
employee.
Yeah. Okay. We will post this deck at that website, or you can find it on the Marin Valley website. This recording will be posted as well, so you'll be able to go back and listen to it. Want to thank you all for your questions. You guys, all for your questions. Want to thank Kim and Randy for spending their Saturday afternoon with us. Want to thank you all for attending. Kim made a very important point. Let's be successful by talking to our neighbors. One-on-one, let's have those conversations. Let's start moving this thing forward so we're teed up when we're ready to go. Thank you all, and please join us on September 19th.
And refreshments at the back.
There are refreshments in the back.
Please join us for, yeah. And make sure you have signed in, please, if you haven't done so already. Thank you.